He's taken courses from Levine and Hanzlicek, and he's published in Sage a number of times in another magazine called Encore. He's director of the Special Studies Reading and Writing program out at Fresno State. And I've read some of his poems, and some of my ideas were, it seems his poems kind of preserve certain cultural values, preservation of cultural values. We all do that in our poems, and by that I mean to say there are certain, this country was founded by revolutionists. Most of them were rabble-rousers, fugitives from justice. And after that came a string of gold diggers and fortune seekers. But the spirit of revolution is what I mean by preserving cultural values. And it seems like the posture of the revolutionists is something that holds up this country. Our government likes to pass itself off as being historically significant in terms of revolution. But the point is, most of the revolution, we're at the point now where we sold out, at least the government has, sold out to conservatives and people that suppress revolution all over the world. And it's calling people rabble-rousers and everything else. It's just exactly the opposite, I think. And a lot of us feel it deep down in the gut level, and it comes out in poems. You know, this feeling that we want to preserve what is valuable in this world. And really, it is, when we look at it, those things that we value the most are revolutionary elements. And I see that in David's poems. He writes poems about people and problems that often relate to things that should be preserved. They have a lot of emotional strength and a sense of heritage to try to consolidate the spirit of revolution. Are you ready, David? David's going to come up and read.
This first one is called Guitar Man, which I normally pronounce Guitar Man. There's a reference in here to a place called Eddie's Cafe. It's in Hanford. If you've ever been there, it has the distinction of having more grease on the floor than any establishment in San Joaquin Valley. It's one of those places, I used to go there late at night, early in the morning, and the one characteristic that sticks out in my mind about that place was there was, almost every single night I went there was somebody crawling around on the floor scraping up the gum. And it always amazed me how it always got replaced, because every time I go there, the guy was still there scraping the gum. At any rate, Guitar Man. With the sun long packed away and night singing crickets off to sleep, we drifted, drunk in your 57. Ahead lay Vietnam, Punji trapped, and back at home, 2 young men would kill your mother. From that night, we never met again to talk and jam old soul tunes or to sober up at Eddie's. Someone said you run a quick stop now in Porterville, with fingers grown thick as the hoagies you sell to kids who never saw lightning dance over strings of bronze and silver. This next one, I think most people who are my age have certain memories of Vietnam, whether it was from the point of view of a GI or as a protester, or just simply living through the experience of watching the news every night. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid the memories associated with that. At any rate, this one is called Excursion Draft Physical 1968, which is intended to be a military phrasing. For some reason, they all say everything backwards and then turn around and do it backwards. Excursion Draft Physical 1968. In the shoebox room, 3 sodden women sit, pilots to battleship desks. Manila folder walls are stark in blooming light, and instruction militarily curt. Those who flunk come home at 5, the staunch one commands. Her voice drones into the waiting greyhound. I mock her demeanor, and Kevin, a boy I went to school with, laughs. He will die in Vietnam. This next one is called Remembrance. Across this vacant schoolyard, sycamore leaves take to the wind. A paper sack tumbles on to nowhere, and the gray sky says rain, and we grow into winter. I stand at the curb, hand out, thumb up, my skin coarse as a fresh dug root. Far down the street, an historic Pontiac comes to life. The driver sits tall as my grandfather did, gray fedora, whiff of peppermints, King Edwards. I wonder if he too wears a red carnation. Many of my poems are about people, and 2 of my favorite people. One's my grandfather I just mentioned. Another one is my uncle, who, I guess hopefully everybody has an uncle or an aunt or some relative who is an adult, and then as a child you always appreciate them because there's something childish about them. There should be somebody that you can always relate to who's an adult, and usually that's not your parents. This was my uncle. I remember seeing down the main street of town, he was riding with his boss, and he always called me Hammerhead, and I called him Knucklehead, we just had this banter back and forth. And I was about 8 years old when I was riding my bike down the street. He rode by with his boss, and his boss had a suit, and he looked really, proper and everything. And I ran right out in the middle of the street, and I stopped his car, and I threw up my hands, and I yelled, Knucklehead! And then I just turned around and ran off. He later told me it was one of the most embarrassing moments in his life. This maniac 8-year-old kid. At any rate, this is him. And this is called The Table is True. The table is true. The felt is thin, and specks of blue chalk are everywhere. Craning under the light, I nudged the cue ball toward the 8. Uncle Jack was bald and only missed when it paid. It paid in beer, and as he told it more and more, it grew to money and more of that. But it didn't matter. He could smoke a Camel in his ear to make us laugh. Curly saw him die. He drove up coughing. He coughed himself redder than he had ever been until his head dropped and his car slammed against the building. I can see it now. Rolling through the smoke, it drifts toward the pocket as someone coughs and the game is over. One thing in terms of that, knowing an adult who you can relate to as a child, now I'm an adult most of the time. And I have 2 children. And sometimes they ask me things that, or they bring up ideas that kind of floor me, and really shock me. And I know we all go through that experience too. And this poem called Tucson, it deals with my daughter named Flannery. And anyway, this is it, Tucson. Driving through black desert, syrup heat, and waves of screeching cicadas, we drift a world alone. Yolanda and Catherine are asleep in back. It is 3 a.m. Flannery, 6, has never known this part of night, the radio wavering, rancheras y cumbias. She asks what lies ahead, what she will find with light. I'm 34, I say, and I don't know. She laughs and settles back. There is comfort in the sweltering darkness. This next poem is about a man I knew. I used to live down on Glen, south of Belmont, if you know that area. I lived there 8 years ago, I guess. It was bad then. It's horrid now. At any rate, this was an old man who lived in the apartment behind us, and he was an alcoholic, and he's just this incredible bullshitter, you know. He did everything from playing saxophone for Sammy Davis Jr. to being Lyndon Johnson's advisor on race affairs or something like that. At any rate, he always had these incredible plans, and he always tried to sucker me in on them. The only one I went for was to deliver him over to the projects about 2 o'clock in the morning one night in West Fresno. And that was enough. After that, I had plans and no plans. Anyway, this one is called Plans. From a peaked roof ahead, a neon cross blinks, the rivers of a map flowing into space. And Tucker speaks of plans. Today he is 67, 47 years of freedom, and 20 in the hole for shooting up some punk. You see, he says, and talks about a shoe stand and a drive-in. We move at the pace of his cane. His guts got shot up in Korea. I've just got to stay cool and find some work. We stop in the blue grin of a cocktail glass, and Tucker coughs to the violence of a prison. In the crooked cast of light, he is broken at the waist, and the arteries of his forehead are rivers in relief. He waves me through the door, his damp hand gilded like a dangling trout, and the neon darkness sucks us in. And then, finally, this is the last one. This one's called Child Pilots. And last July, June, April, whenever it was, sometime last spring, they had an air show at Lemoore, and some of you may have been there. I took 3 little girls, my 2 daughters and a friend, or maybe it's 2 friends, I don't remember, and an elderly man whose wife had just died. And I thought, well, I've got to help this guy out. I'm going to take him somewhere for a good time. We're going to have fun. And I'll be damned, the first thing that happens is the plane blows up right in front of our face, kills the pilot. You know, at the time it struck me, you know, I brought my children here, not to mention this old man, who, by the way, just had a heart attack, you know, and I thought, oh, you know, what do? Do I just panic and drag my kids out of here and say nobody died, he's okay, and let's get out of here before we find out he got fried, you know? Well, anyway, we stayed. For one more time, for about 2 more loops of the next airplane, and then we got the hell out of there because I couldn't stomach it anymore. I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and I saw more than my share of airplane crashes. Picked them up. Okay, this is Child Pilots. From the distant flecks of sage and concrete-lined horizon, you came to us in a crystal mirage. Your World War II trainer, box-like, a clean mechanical form, we said, trailed red and blue ribbons of smoke in loops that only a gnat or a mosquito should be able to fly. We shaded our eyes and whistled soft appreciation. When your rigid metal frame easily cut the steamy clouds and sky, the blue of boiling water, we sipped our beer and spoke of flaps and ailerons to the children at our feet. When your bug drone stopped with the silence of a swatted wasp, your coarse black pyre rose with questions we can never answer. That's it.
The next poet is going to be Arlene Mitchell Smith. Arlene took courses from Phil Levine and Mark Strand. Started writing when she was in high school. Today she's a housewife, and her interest in poetry, I read her poetry a couple of years ago and I liked it. And I thought, I'd like to get her to come and read here. And finally, I'm able to get her to come and read here. She finally said yes. And I'm real glad. It's been a long time since I read her poems. And so I can't think what to say other than they had a lot of good qualities and a sense of inner conviction and good rhythm and warmth and nourishment and lots of good stuff. So, are you ready to read, Arlene? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's right on some things and some things he's not right, but we'll talk about that later. One thing he's right about is I haven't written poetry in quite a while. I've always had a real deep interest in it. I still do. I look at my poems kind of like it's a can of worms, you know, and I was real reluctant to come here and open them. But I don't know, they're kind of good worms, you know, like Chuck said, they're nourishment. So, I just reached in my book. I keep all my poems written in this book. It's the only copy, and I just kind of went from the beginning to the end and picked about 5 poems. This is the first time I've seen some of them in a long time. Okay, the first poem I'll read is called China Heart Dancer. I was about 20 years old and just going to college for the first time and had moved away from my parents. And was really enjoying my freedom, but having trouble really defining what it was. China Heart Dancer. For 2 years I had been stretching my muscles, trying to get beyond the place I was before I had to figure out how to untie the knots in my shoes. An inch more is a loop unraveled. I am beginning to think like a dancer when the music is just right and my feet do not wonder why they are so heavy or where they are going. Sometimes when I take off across the floor, I feel like I can fly. I remember at 15 when I first discovered love, how I spun myself round and round like a ballerina unwound on top of a music box, dancing to the edge of madness, unafraid to fall, not knowing I could not go on forever. I danced to a dream. A friend read me from a poem, amazed that someone could say such things to set me so in motion. I moved with a China heart, undisciplined, unrestrained, believing in anything my foot could tap to, tripped up by nothing until one day I began to stumble over people. I gathered up their worries in my shoes against the soles, and with them I sank like a rock, lay sedimentary in an ocean I could not fathom, fingers I could not make remember how to untie a knot. You see, I am stretching myself now, trying to reach beyond the place I was before the knots were tied. Each loop is a depth I must travel. I am measuring out the beats in my life, trying to find my own dance, winding up the music box. Okay, then this is a poem that kind of follows that one. It's called From the First Bend, referring to a river. I do not want to walk forever into desolation, repeating the same words again and again, like a trail that loops in the woods, or an animal caught in a snare, unable to move. Yet so many times I find myself talking to the air, or to a bug crawling by my feet, Van Gogh or Nietzsche, or of the man in our town who drunk drove his car into a woman and 3 children, scattering their bodies in pieces across the street. And always the same senseless words return. They come to carry me over black hills where the moon lies hidden in the crooked limbs of trees. They come to scold me for picking the jonquil, for teasing the cat, for telling a lie. They leave me at the first bend of a river, scratching my name into the sand, listening to the lost calls of ducks, my shadow, my ghost, dipping its feet into darkness. Thank you. The next poem is called Try Again. I used to one of my part-time jobs that I had was babysitting a 85-year-old man who was really crazy, but he was really old and he was dying and he was very sick. And I hated him a lot of the times, but there was also this other side of me that felt really soft to him. And this was from that. Try again. Try again, one more time. No one is looking, no one cares. You are old and alone. No one sees your sad eyes. Your slow tears fall on empty hands. Hands that plowed fields, hammered nails, raised children. Hands that loved a woman who didn't love you back. So try again, one more time. Let your eyes move to light. Let your tongue turn to song. Let your hands rediscover love. You are real as the earth, as real as grapes ripening on the vine, as real as the wind that bites your cheeks. So try again, one more time. And the last poem is called At Half Moon Bay, which is a place somewhere between Santa Cruz and San Francisco. I was hitchhiking one day along that route and stayed at this place. At Half Moon Bay. We dance in the sand making circles, hands raised to the four directions. My child screams to the ocean, daring it to come closer. Our rituals are young and new. No dark hawk soar above our heads. We are free, free like the eagle bird and dove, free like the long-legged piper chasing waves. We are our own universes, our own stars. All around us, the celestial anthem is being sung. We hear it singing in the water and through the trees. We hear it singing in our hearts, and it sings on and on, past America, past Russia, past China, past the threat of nuclear destruction. We are singing, we are dancing, and we are free. That's all. Thank you.
All right. One of the things about coming up here and reading, almost everyone I've ever talked to that's never, poets that I've talked to that have never read to an audience before, it's a good thing. It helps you to think about your poems in a new and more comprehensive way. Also, you think about your voice, too. You have to, I think poetry is really rooted in the oral tradition. And the voice has a lot to do with and everyone has there are certain qualities and sounds in your voice that help you find the style that fits you, you know. Once you find that, poems come to you without having to try so hard like you're in some dealing with foreign elements. Anyway, the next poet I've never heard Mike read, and I guess I remember him in college. We went to college together, and then he disappeared, went off somewhere. I guess he went to Indiana. Is that right? Yeah. But anyway, Mike, I guess grew up in Reedley, and according to the Santa Fe Depot, the anthology at Santa Fe Depot, he was in that anthology. He comes from Reedley. Family comes from Oklahoma, came out of the Dust Bowl in the 30s. And anyway, when he left Fresno State, he went to Indiana, where he won the Academy of American Poets Award, 1979. He, since then, has managed to get a PhD in English. He's teaching English now. And I guess he's gone through a lot of struggle to get that far. His poem's kind of a wonderful kind of honesty, a reevaluating of experience, and a reckoning with the past and experience. And he has, I got a feeling from his poems, his poems like to get into your head. They like to find consciousness out in other people's minds. I have that feeling about his poems, and they always lift me up when I read them. I guess there's a lot of things I can say. He's got a great way of establishing connections and a great sense of the present time, and he starts his poems off real well. And I don't know, I think someday he'll write great long epics. That's my feeling. And Mike, are you ready to come up and read? Mike Clifton.
I don't know how many of you were raised around animals, but my grandparents had a farm, and I was lucky enough to be raised around some of the livestock. And there's something really sinister about pigs. When you look at them, they've a mind to, they look right back. And this is a poem about a pig that looked right back one time. My grandfather shot a jackrabbit one time when we were visiting when I was about 4 or 5. That was exciting enough, but then he threw the carcass to the pig, which promptly made a real impression. This is called The Sow and the Rabbit. One shot, and he was meat. Gristle, hide, and guts turns to crunch, crackling like an empty wrapper in her maw. Simple to say she needed protein for her brood, but I'd seen neck muscles bulge, relentless as ground swells, to crack cement for curiosity, and had her lunge for me each time I dropped a truant piglet back in the pen. We understood each other then, as I saw the gleam blink back under woman's lashes. One wrong step, and I'd have her cold snout on my neck. This is I still live in that same neighborhood south of Belmont, and I don't know if you've ever noticed, but things take a real turn for the worse south of Belmont. People die in my neighborhood regularly, and this is a poem about a particularly useless death, and it's called Death on Calaveras. Dancing near the playground, a wino leaps when the wine hosannas in his head, leaps to the blood belling in his heart, hops and shuffles till the spirit's gone, and puzzles off for more. An old radio on a sill just out of reach looks like easy cash, but leaping, he cracks his nose on the ledge, falls in a burst of glory, breaks his neck, and listens stunned to the news his blood brings, his ear pressed to its sudden flower, unfolding on the sidewalk. sense of expectancy that comes, that kind of stillness in the evening sometimes, called late in April. As she moves through poppies at last light, calling to the cat that lost itself to hear her call, everything begins listening. Hollyhocks hang all ears on their long stalks. The water, brimming in old snail shells, trembles at the touch of her voice. And this is another love poem called November Meeting. When I went out to feed the sparrows, love, one of them watched me from the feeder. She was so sure, within her brown and gray, of where she was and how, as if her staking out so small a claim must surely go unchallenged. She never thought to be afraid. But wearing her brown feathers like a badge, she sat her ground and only flew the few short feet into the lavender after I'd stood a little time, while her heart beat and mine. This is an elegy for one of my grandfathers. He died while we were in Indiana, and I didn't know anything about it until we got back. It's called Elegy for Jim. That man who wore his silence as soft and easy as a riverbed wears mist died so quietly I never knew. He brought that knack with him from the Midwest, where mosquitoes sing in the creek bottoms, bobwhites call, and locusts drone so loud and steady it's like no sound at all. A pressure steady as clay against your boots pushes turtles low in the water. And the man's voice so deep in his throat, the only human sound is the mud in the river bottoms kissing your feet goodbye. I don't know how to classify this poem. Some people say that when they're writing, the images don't even begin as images. It's not words at all, it's simply a rhythm. This is an attempt to transcribe something that's not even rhythm. It comes out as a strange kind of direction. I've tried writing this again and again, and this is the latest effort. Sometimes the leaves ring down. We think it's iron in the head pulls birds through their restless pitch and circle these changing seasons. Simple magnetism. We say that tug behind the eyes is only north. To turn from it one way is west, another east. But this sense that I am dancing somewhere beyond me, with everything as our partner, has no direction, only curves and simple vectors I can see sometimes, or one part. As today, goldfinches after seeds flew from a tree with leaves yellower than they in this late time, and something in that one long bounce from crown to crown rang true, and leaves fell down, all golden, for the longest time. That's it.
Okay. Unless John Martinez has showed up. That's
No, we're at
Okay. We're ready to have I guess we'll take a little break and then we'll have some music. And we'll do it.